Hello everyone, welcome to week 4 of Music 103 for the fall of 2020. This week we'll be talking about the basics of key signatures, how a key works, and a system of keys called the circle of fifths. Let's say that we want to construct two diatonic major scales, C major and E major. We know that we can use the pattern whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half to build these scales, and we know that starting on C, we can build this scale with all white keys. When we start on E and build using the whole, whole, half pattern, we can't complete the scale with only white keys. We need accidentals here at F sharp, here at G sharp, here at C sharp, and here at D sharp. So we need accidentals, sharps or flats, to make any major diatonic pattern that starts on a tonic other than C. In the E major scale, we needed 4 different sharps: F sharp, G sharp, C sharp, and D sharp. So if we wrote a song in the key of E major, we'd have to remember all 4 of those sharps, and we would have to put sharps in front of those notes every time they first appeared in a measure. A quick side note on reading accidentals. Accidentals are always written on the staff to the left of the note head. This is the opposite of how we describe them in text or talk about them, where the accidental follows the letter name, B flat, and so on. Also, accidentals carry through the measure in which they appear. For example, in this measure, both the first C and the second C are C sharp, because there's a sharp in front of the first C, and it automatically also applies to every C that follows it in the measure. To cancel an accidental before the bar line, we use a natural sign. And once we reach the bar line, if there's not a key signature telling us otherwise, we assume that all accidentals are canceled. So when flats and sharps recur again and again because of the scale that we're using, we can represent them with key signatures. You'll find the key signature located right after the clef sign at the start of every musical staff. And if an accidental appears in the key signature, it applies to every instance of that note, unless canceled by another accidental. In this example, the notes E flat, B flat, and A flat are all notes in the scale of this tune. We can expect those notes to show up again and again as the song continues. So we're going to put all these flats in the key signature, writing them on the lines and spaces right after the clef. Not only will B, E, and A on those specific lines and spaces be flatted, all instances of B, E, and A in any octave will also be flatted. We put the flats in this order: B flat, E flat, and A flat. You might notice that's not the order in which they appeared in the song. We'll come back to that thought in a minute. Key signatures can tell us what accidentals we need given the tonic. However, they also do the reverse. Once we know how to read key signatures, we can use them as a code to unlock what the tonic of our key is. For instance, looking at this song, I see that it's in a scale with 3 flats in it. And I know that there's 3 flats in the key of E flat major. Therefore, this song is in E flat major, and the tonic of the key is E flat. Or is it? Remember, there's actually 7 different diatonic modes, so we could have a scale of 3 flats that starts on F, or on G. But when we read key signatures, we usually assume that we're talking about either only major or Ionian or minor or Aeolian mode. Some more things to know about how key signatures work. First of all, key signatures always contain either sharps or flats, but not both. You'll never see a diatonic key signature with a mix of flats and sharps. Second, key signatures feature a unique number and collection of accidentals. So, for example, a key with 3 flats will always contain the flats B flat, E flat, and A flat, and not any others. This isn't a real key signature. There's no diatonic scale in any mode that contains the notes A flat, B flat, and D flat, and no other flats. Not only does every key signature have a unique collection of accidentals, those accidentals appear in a set order. Sharps always appear in this order: F, C, G, D, A, E, and B. Notice that when we get to E sharp and B sharp, we're enharmonically respelling white keys, F and C. Also, notice once again that key signatures are written on different lines and spaces depending on the clef, because of course those lines and spaces represent different pitches for different clefs. A shortcut for reading sharp key signatures: the tonic of the key is the line or space immediately above the last or rightmost sharp. So in this example, with a whopping 7 sharps, the note right above B sharp must be some kind of C, but we know it can't be C major. If you look back toward the beginning of this enormous sharp-filled key signature, you'll see that there's a sharp on the 3rd space from the bottom of the treble clef staff. So this must be a key signature for C sharp major. That's probably not a key you'll come across very often. Flats always appear in this order: B, E, A, D, G, C, and F. Once again, C flat and F flat are enharmonic respellings of B and E. The shortcut for reading flat keys is that the second to last flat is the same as the tonic of the key. So in this key signature of 7 flats, the second to last flat, once again, is on the 3rd space from the bottom of the treble clef staff. So it must be C flat. So this must be the key of C flat major. Again, not a key you'll come across too often. C flat major is probably more easily written as B major. It's also important that we're able to find the other mode that uses these key signatures. We found it before, last week, when we compared our C major scale to our A minor scale. We found the A minor scale by going down 3 half steps. We can generalize this rule. To find the relative minor scale of any major key, go down 3 half steps. So let's say we're in A major, not minor. To find our relative minor, we would count down another 3 half steps. G sharp, G, and F sharp, to find the key of F sharp minor. Remember, pairs of keys such as C major and A minor, or A major and F sharp minor, are relative because they share the same key signature. In other words, they're modes of the same diatonic collection. Now let's make an attempt to be very logical about key signatures and how they work. We know that in some way the diatonic scale is built by making a pile of 3:2 frequency ratios and collapsing them into a pattern that fills an octave. Just to be real clear here, Pythagoras did not invent the diatonic scale. Many cultures throughout millennia have spontaneously developed the diatonic scale completely on their own. We also maybe know that the 3:2 frequency ratio is roughly equivalent to an interval called a fifth. Therefore, fifths must be important to understanding how the diatonic scale works and relates to transpositions of itself. Therefore, the order in which accidentals appear in my key signature, in this kind of up-down pattern, isn't accidental at all, but reflects an important pattern. Therefore, there must be a system that helps us understand keys and key relationships efficiently based on the construction of the diatonic scale system itself. And there is. The circle of fifths is a pedagogical darling of teachers of Western music everywhere. While it might look intimidating at first, the circle isn't something to be afraid of.
It is a gift.
The circle of fifths shows all the possible key signatures of the diatonic scale, in order of increasing sharps or flats, depending on which direction you go around the circle. Furthermore, it shows us important relationships between the keys. Keys that are next to each other on the circle of fifths are closely related. Compare the key of C major with its neighbors, G major and F major. Because there's only one flat in F major and only one sharp in G major, there's only one note different between either of these keys and the key of all white notes, C major. Keys that have only one note different between their scales we call closely related, and that includes the relative major and minor keys, which of course have exactly the same notes in their scales. But let's take just a second and make sure we all know what we mean by fifths. A fifth is the interval between two pitches 5 letter names apart, or a total of 5 lines and spaces apart on the staff. We'll go over how intervals work in more detail soon. For now, remember, when counting intervals, include the pitch you started on and the pitch you're ending on in the counting. So, for example, to count a fifth above the note D, I would count D, E, F or F sharp, G, and A. Whether I would count F or F sharp, or indeed with any other accidental, depends on the key that I'm in. To get around the circle of fifths, count using the accidentals that have already appeared. For example, if I'm in B major and want to find the next key in the circle of fifths going in the sharps direction, I want to count C sharp, D sharp, E, and F sharp. I don't want to end up on F natural because that's not right. So let's look more closely at how the circle of fifths actually works. As we go clockwise around the circle, starting from C major, we add sharps. As we go counterclockwise, we add flats. But we don't just add them willy-nilly to random notes in our scale. Look at the G major scale. The note that's changed as we move from C major to G major is F, changed from F natural to F sharp. In our old key, C major, F was scale degree 4. In our new key, F sharp is now scale degree 7, or the leading tone. If we keep going from G major to D major, it's the note C that gets changed to C sharp. In the old key, G major, it was scale degree 4. In the new key, D major, C sharp is now scale degree 7, or the leading tone. And remember, it was these two scale degrees, 4 and 7, or Fa and Ti. Those are the ones that we drop from the diatonic scale to create the pentatonic scale, because those are the two that create the half steps. Coincidence? I think not. Going the other direction, from C major to F major, we add one flat, changing B natural into B flat. It's the same process in reverse. In the old key, B natural was the leading tone, or scale degree 7. In the new key, B flat is scale degree 4. This pattern reflects how the diatonic scale is constructed. The two uneven spots, the half steps in our whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half pattern, are the places where we have to alter pitches to make the pattern work. This explains why accidentals show up in our key signatures in the orders that they do. They reflect the process of moving from one related key to the next, and by extension, how the diatonic scale itself is made. But you don't actually need such in-depth knowledge of the circle of fifths to be able to use it. In fact, you don't even have to know what goes into any of your key signatures to use it, so long as you can recreate the circle of fifths by knowing your stack of fifths, like this. Down here at the bottom, I wrote this one as F sharp / G flat, because coming from this direction, it's 6 sharps. Coming from this direction, it's 6 flats, and it all just depends on which direction you came from to get there, how you write it. Okay, so let's say that I want to know all the notes that are in my scale for A flat major, but I don't know any key signatures or anything. So I go to A flat, I go counterclockwise one space around the circle to D flat. I circle these 7 notes right here. A flat, B flat, C, D flat, E flat, F, and G. If you're a DJ, you might already be familiar with the Camelot system, which is a modified version of the circle of fifths used to help DJs smoothly transition from one song to another while mixing. A DJ might work from a large catalog of music that's been assigned codes based on key and mode. To move from one song to another with the least amount of interruption, a DJ may choose to move to a key area no more than one number away. Moving from one wedge to another with a number only one different creates smooth transitions because these are closely related keys. We're going to do a little key finding exercise together. Here's some melodies, which I'm going to play for you. After I play them, I want you to pause the video and see if you can figure out the key of each melody based on the accidentals that you see and your perception of what pitch is tonic. So here's the first one. Here's the second melody. And here's the third melody. As you're figuring these out, I suggest that you make a note of what pitch you think is the tonic of the key. Also, look at your circle of fifths handout that you can find on Moodle, and also try playing these yourself on your own keyboard or keyboard app. Here are the answers to our key finding exercise. In the first melody, there are two flats, B flat and E flat. There's also a strong sense of completion when we reach the final B flat. So this example is in the key of B flat major, and the key signature should contain two flats, B flat and E flat. In the second example, the only accidental is F sharp, and the melody begins and ends on G, and G certainly sounds like the tonic. So this melody is in G major, and its key signature contains F sharp. The last example is a little trickier. There's only one accidental, F sharp, but this melody doesn't begin and end on G, and it doesn't really sound like G is the tonic. It sounds like D is the tonic, but that would mean a key signature of two sharps, F sharp and C sharp. If we look more closely at this melody, we see that there simply aren't any Cs of any kind. So which key signature should we use? We want a key signature that points to tonic, and there's good reason to think that the tonic of this melody is D. So we'll write a key signature with two sharps, F sharp and C sharp, even though the C sharp doesn't actually appear. This brings up a good question. How can you know what pitch is tonic in a piece of music without knowing the key signature? There are usually important contextual clues that can help you hear the tonic of a key. First, look for or listen for beginning and ending pitches. Many songs either begin or end on tonic, or both, so that's a reasonable place to expect to find tonic, especially the ending pitch. Second, listen for pitches that recur a lot throughout the music. There's no guarantee that any pitch is tonic just because it happens a lot, but if a pitch gets repeated a lot, that usually means it's important to the song. Third, try to notice if there's a leading tone pointing to tonic. If you hear a note that really wants to move up to a nearby pitch to sound complete, you are likely hearing the leading tone, 1/2 step below tonic. Finally, listen for any pitches that stand out as giving you a sense of completeness or stability. Again, this depends very much on context, but we associate the tonic of the scale with completion. If a note sounds like an arrival point, it might very well be tonic. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you learned something about key signatures and the circle of fifths. So please check out some of the optional videos from the playlist this week, and I'll see you in class.